What is going on, Bucs fans? We are back here on another episode of the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. I am your host, JCL. We've got a fun show. We'll pick up where we left off. Last time we were here, we went through the NFC South, ranking the position groups. Who has got the better one? Looking at the complete roster set at each position group and ranking who's 1 through 4. We're going to keep up with that on the defensive side of the ball. We got some housekeeping. Certain Buccaneer cracked the top 100 list voted on by the NFL players. Some extensions doled out and some schedule releases and things that are popping up. We'll see what happens. We got some teases from the Buccaneers, and we'll see what that's all about. We'll get into it and everything else after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle to intercept and picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Back here on the other side again. Appreciate you guys for joining me here for another episode of the Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. Everyone who's watching over on Twitter, appreciate you guys. Everyone watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. If you're watching, come on over to YouTube if you're watching on Twitter. And, of course, everyone else who's going to listen to this in the podcast form, appreciate you guys very much. So, with that being said, we'll jump into today's show. Again, I talked about it, a couple things. We'll get some housekeeping things, and then we'll jump into the rest of my NFC South rankings, positional group, going by group, and we'll kind of recap on the offensive side as well, in case you missed it. But housekeeping news while I was away. Big extensions doled out for the front office and for the head coach. Jason Licht and Todd Bowles locked up to long-term deals and well-deserved. I mean, if you look what Jason Licht's done, this has been shared through the Buccaneers, but number one in the NFL in games started and snaps played from their rookies drafted from 2014 to 2024. The last couple of years, they're also number one with having the most snaps. But since he took over, I mean, Jason architected one of the biggest free agent signings of all time. Whether Tom wanted to come here or not, it takes two to tango, and Jason made that happen, and obviously led to a Super Bowl for the Buccaneers. But beyond that, you know, he's really kind of had an unprecedented run with the Buccaneers. When you look at it, a lot of owners would have probably moved on those first early years. So some dark years for the Buccaneers and for Jason Licht. I had a lot of draft picks go awry. Not a lot of them hit. Some busts in the first round. You know, Mike Evans, his first overall pick, is still doing great things, but there was a lot of picks in between and some free agent signings that just didn't work. And, you know, he's talked about it at length, you know, just getting with his staff and really learning, you know, what they need to do in order to get the right type of player in here. And I mean, since 2020, Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield Jr., yeah, you could say what you want about the rest of that draft class. But since then, he's just been nailing it year after year after year. And they seem to find a formula. They found a formula in free agency, getting guys in here who are either trying to redeem themselves, maybe Hassan Reddick's the next case, or guys who just want to be a part of this locker room. Again, a guy like Chase Edmonds, who was on not too long ago, he came to the Bucs before the Bucs came to him. Hey, I want to be here. I want to be part of what you're building. And a lot of other players want that too. And that's a credit to Jason and a credit to Todd Bowles, who also, I think, I've been very supportive of him. I think a lot of the criticism has been undeserving, certainly some of it, clock management. But this is a guy who, okay, he hears you, right? You're screaming about timeouts and clock management. He went out and hires a guy, Beastline, that's his thing. That's his thing, is clock management and scenario type of situational football and scenarios and being that, you know, voice in Todd's ear that's going to help him pick up in those areas. And that's the biggest thing I think about Todd is, you know, you've seen the reflection year after year. You've seen growth from him in certain departments. And he continues to just, I think, be exactly what this football team needs. Yeah, you know, you could go the younger, flashy play caller. And I know a lot of people wanted Liam Cohen to come in and kick Todd Bowles to the curb, but you look what he's done. I mean, the defense has been spectacular in almost every facet. I mean, the numbers don't lie for themselves. And a lot of the times when the defense have struggled over the years, it's been because of health issues. Last year, maybe personnel issues, especially at linebacker, middle linebacker, and a little bit at edge, maybe not having that guy. But for the most part, it's been a lot about health issues. And I mean, especially in the secondary. I mean, remember a couple of years ago, not just last year, but a couple of years ago, it's like they didn't play an entire game until like week 16 or 17 with their full expected secondary. So, Todd has done what he can with scraps off the street when he can, and he deserves. I mean, look what they've done. They've improved their win total every year. They've gone to the NFC South championship every single year. He's been the head coach. Even the first year when he was stuck with Byron and all these other things going on out of his control, well past free agency. And I think it was in the middle of March or May that he took over. So very deserving for both of those guys. Another person who's very deserving is Lavonte David. Top 100 came out today. Lavonte David learns at number 96. Trishan Wirfs opened up the video, and it's great. Hear him, just glow about Lavonte, and he ends it at the end. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. But Bijan Robinson was in there. Rashid Shaheed was in there. Rashid Shaheed said, all week we got to know. We're talking about it. We need to know where Lavonte is going to be, where 54 is going to be at all times. And it's cool to think that Lavonte at age 35 is still a heavy part of a team's game plan. Like you look at, a lot of teams would love to have that edge rusher, right? The guy who's like, oh, we got to game plan this edge rusher. To know that teams are still game planning about Lavonte David just speaks volumes. Bijan Robinson says, I know that the week I have to play him, I need to study him extensively because he's going to just do things and be places where I don't expect them. I'll be flying by him, and then he'll be right on my hip when I turn around. And it's just a testament. 19 miles per hour he reached last year. Chasing down Jaden Daniels. So Lavonte David, number 96, probably should have been higher. Doesn't get the love he deserves. Only one Pro Bowl in his career. 7th time on that list. Sure, Bobby Wagner will be higher than him, but Lavonte is just still killing it with what he's doing. The Bucs also dropped their home schedule. It's kind of like a preview of what's going to be, what's happening. They've got their 50th season anniversary against the Jets, their crucial catch. Salute to service against New England, where the camo comes out, which is always fun. A crucial catch, you'll have the pink, which is always fun. Ring of Honor, November 30th. That's when Simeon Rice will go into the Buccaneers Ring of Honor. Well-deserved, well overdue. And then, you're looking at the Saints, but you look the next week after that, December 11th, is when that creamsicle game is going to happen at home, Thursday Night Football. You see the red out on the lights there. They usually do that for primetime games at home. I have a feeling it might be a little bit different. I have a feeling it might be a little bit orange during that game instead of the normal red that they go to. So things to look at. And then another possible little nugget the Bucs have dropped. And we've heard reports and rumors of it, but a white creamsicle jersey perhaps is gonna come out as well, but possibly on that Jets game. It makes a lot of sense. They're celebrating their 50th season on that Jets game. Another possibility is another team whose 50th season started the same year, and they would be on the road, would be the Seattle Seahawks. Seeing those two teams go at it in their old school uniforms, I think would be awesome. I think that's the game it should happen. But I get a lot of fans probably want to see those throwbacks. And again, if it's against the Jets too, I think that's fine. But it's going to be interesting. So we'll see how that all plays out going forward. I'll do a quick recap of my rankings on the offensive side. Buccaneers were number 1 at quarterback. Panthers 2, Falcons 3, Saints 4. At running back, Bucs 1, Falcons 2, Panthers 3, Saints 4. Wide receiver, Bucs 1, Falcons 2, Panthers 3, Saints 4. Tight ends, Bucs 1, Falcons 2, Saints 3, Panthers 4. And offensive line, the Buccaneers were 1, the Falcons were 2, the Panthers were 3, and the Saints were 4. So with that being said, let's jump into my defensive rankings here, position by position group. Again, this is my rankings. You can either love it, hate it, boast it, roast it, toast it, whatever you want to do. I'm going to boast it because they're mine. But without further ado, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball, and let's look at the defensive line rankings here in the NFC South. I still think the Buccaneers ruled the day here. Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, that 1-2 punch is just very dangerous. And I think Kalijah Kancey is going to take it a step even further this year. Logan Hall, Greg Gaines, Elijah Rodgers round out the top 5 for the Buccaneers. CJ Brewer, they keep 6, is battling the likes of Mike Green, Adam Gostis, while Desmond Watson, everyone's favorite 400-plus pounder, and Nash Hutchmaker, they are both battling for practice squad spots. I think Desmond Watson shows enough promise in the preseason. He'll likely get one. I think the Bucs keep 6 defensive linemen this year, but with Elijah Roberts' versatility, they may just only keep 5. They've done that in previous seasons, but it's a little bit younger. You don't have a guy like Will Golston there who's that savvy veteran. A little bit more younger depth there. So we'll see how that plays out. Panthers are number 2 for me. I like the Derek Brown, Bobby Brown combo right there, and Tershawn Wharton I think was a good pickup for them. I like their depth better with LeBray Ryan, Shai Tuttle, and Ashawn Robinson. All played snaps at a high level at some point. They might not be the best, but they're certainly, I think, some of the better backups in the division, at least with the other 3 teams remaining. Saints, that Devin Godchild pickup was a good one for them. I like him a lot. I think he can be a good spot for them. Huge Christian Boyd fan coming out of the draft last year. Of course, they put a first-round pick into Brian Brzee. He hasn't really turned out to what they thought, but big opportunity for him. I do like the depth here, too, with Kalen Saunders, and Vernon Broughton was a guy I really liked. I think they picked him up in the 4th or 5th round, and I think he'll be able to make an impact as well. Losing Grady Jarrett hurt the Falcons for sure. David Onyemata is still a really good player. Rook Ohoro, who they drafted last year early in the 2nd round, who I like the fit for the Bucs. He got banged up, didn't finish his season, and they got Morgan Fox and Zach Harrison there. Not real intimidating defensive line there as much as it was with Grady Jarrett, even though he was losing a bit of a step as he got older. But now he's with the Bears, and Bears are going to be good. They've got a really solid defense over there in their offense. They just stacked it with weapons. So it's all going to depend on Caleb Williams. But I think they will miss Grady Jarrett on this defense, because when we go through, you'll see there's not a ton of talent on it, and they've put a lot of eggs in a young basket that they're hoping for results from. But we'll get into that after we jump into the linebacker rankings here. The Bucs pretty much rule the offensive rankings. They're not going to rule the defensive rankings. They don't finish last in any of them, but there's question marks, and I think there's situations where the Bucs could become the better of the units. But looking here, I got the Saints, Demario Davis, and Pete Werner. I just think and again, I have a lot of hopes for Savasier Dennis, but we're going track record. What have you done for me lately? Guys who have done it at a very high level. I think the Saints top tandem of Demario Davis, Pete Werner. I really like Danny Stutzman too. DeMarco Jackson's a former 3rd-round pick. So they've got some talent in there. The Buccaneers are 2. Again, Lavonte David is the best probably linebacker in this whole division. Demario Davis, a very close 2nd. Wouldn't be surprised to see him finish higher on the top 100 list than Lavonte. But he's still holding it down at age 35. Savasier Dennis, again, I think he can become a really good linebacker in this league. Definitely top 32, I think. One of the best 32 linebackers in the league, maybe possibly even higher than that. Lavonte said, he's ready to go. When I go, he's ready to step into that role. And again, I just go back to everyone worried about his coverage ability. And now that's all everyone's scrambling for is we need his covering ability. Anthony Walker's a dog. He's gonna chirp. He's gonna get the team fired up. He's not better than Devin White, so to speak, as like an athlete and everything, but as like guy in coverage, a guy who's gonna do the talking. KJ Britt did the talking a lot. He's that guy. He's a linebacker usually. This is Devin White, and there's KJ Britt, and now it's Anthony Walker. Deion Jones has been a dog. He's been making plays, but he's going to get challenged by Nick Jackson and John Bullock. I think Greer probably stays in the practice squad as like a special teams guy who's known the system. Unless one of these guys really threaten Jones or Greer, I think they keep one on the active roster, probably at least one on the practice squad. And you're looking at 4 guys fighting for that one spot. But we'll get into breakdowns on each in each position group soon with the Bucs before training camp starts. We got like 2 weeks before it starts. So we'll break down and go through offense, defense, battles because the wide receiver room is going to be crazy. There's going to be some really good battles, low-key battles, but some really good battles. Panthers come in third for me. Big Josie Jewell fan. I think he's underrated. And Kevin Wallace was someone who I really liked coming out last year. Kid out of Kentucky. Obviously, Liam Cohen. You put two and two together. Fast as hell. Their backups, again, I'm not going to pretend I know much about Bam Martin Scott. But I do like their 1-2 punch more than I like the Falcons with Divine Diablo. I do like Caden Ellis, and I do like Troy Anderson, and I do like JD Bertrand. Troy Anderson's been dealing with injuries for a while. Caden Ellis, kind of under the radar, underrated linebacker. I think he's better than what people know. Divine Diablo is a question mark to me. Former safety. I think he was out of Rutgers maybe, but played with the Raiders the last couple of years. Now comes over to the Falcons. Kind of expensive. They paid a good amount for him, and I just don't know if he is like. I don't know if he's a guy. I don't know if he's like a linebacker one. I still think he's more one of these hybrid linebacker safeties. But if you want to use him in that kind of role and then have Caden Ellis and Troy Anderson on the field, they'll find ways to get Diablo involved, no matter if it's a starting or in a rotational role or something like that. But the way they paid him, you don't think it's going to be a rotational role. So that's my linebacker rankings. We'll jump over to the edge rusher rankings here, and the Buccaneers are on top here. I do have a lot of faith that Hassan Reddick last year was the Jets, and the Jets were just the Jets. I think he's going to bounce back this year. You can see the difference he's made already on the defensive line. And again, no pads were worn during minicamp, but just the attention he received and allowed anybody who was across from him, whether it was Yaya on reps or Braz or Nelly, like, just allow them an easier path to the quarterback. And he's so quick. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I think Yaya Diaby, I could see both of these guys getting 10 sacks a piece. I really could. Yaya and Hassan Reddick. I think there's going to be opportunities for them. The thing that sucks is that teams know that the Bucs are going to try to get the ball out of their hands fast. And that's always going to be the case. So these guys just got to be a tick quicker. Maybe now that they're not receiving double teams and all the time, as in the case of Yaya and Hassan, who hasn't really, because he's always had productive pass rushers next to him, at least the last couple of years with the Eagles and stuff. So it'll say Chris Braswell, big year for him. He's got to take that jump. Anthony Nelson, solid, steady. David Walker, don't sleep on him. I think he's going to be an impact player for them and get some. He'll make some plays. He's not going to start. He might not get a million snaps. He might not outsnap Braswell or Nelson, but he's going to make some plays when he's on the field. The Saints, I like their top three rotation here. Chase Young, Carl Granderson, and Cam Jordan. Cam is what he is at this point, but as a number 3 guy coming off the bench, he's still a savvy vet who knows how to exploit, maybe not the Bucs because of the tackles they have, but exploit some guys and get good pressures if he's not going to get sacks. Granderson is another one of these slept-on guys. I think Chase Young, we'll see. He came there last year. He didn't really do much. Let's see if he can, jumpstart his career. The Panthers I like. So Falcons and Panthers, there's a lot of what could they be? When you look at the Panthers, I like DJ Wonnum more than I like Leonard Floyd, and I like Patrick Jones a lot too. So then I come and I look at the Falcons and I see, okay, Jalen Walker. They took James Pierce Jr., obviously. I like Nick Scorton and Princely Humanalien. They're rookies. So, to me, they're those cross each other out. Jalen Walker could be a stud. James Pierce Jr. could be a stud. 2 first-round picks, pass rushers. But I don't know. Nobody knows. Same thing with Scourton. He got a lot of late first-round buzz, ended up going, early second round. Princely Humanalien, early third round. Got some second-round buzz. We'll see. I think we'll see. I think I like Wonnum and Patrick Jones more than I like Floyd and Ebiketie, and then the rookies are watch. However, I think either one of these rooms, the Panthers or Falcons, can overtake the Saints easily this season if things go right. If Scourton and Humanalien are dogs, and if Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., remember they took Braylon Trice in the 3rd round last year. D'Angelo Malone is a former 3rd-round pick. They've invested in this room. Leonard Fournette was a former first-rounder. Not for them, obviously, but Arnold Ebiketie was a second-rounder. So you got 2 first-round. home drafted, you've got 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and 2 third-round picks, plus Leonard Floyd. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. I think the Falcons could have one of the better rooms. I also think the Panthers could have one of the better rooms. And I think the Bucs have the best room right now with the addition of Hassan Reddick. So we'll see how this all plays out. Very, very fluid. The Falcons are putting a lot of faith in these guys over here, in Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr. We'll see how it plays out. All right, moving on to the cornerback position. Let's take a look here. The Buccaneers back on top. Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean, Benjamin Morrison, Jacob Parrish, Bryce Hall, Kendall Vildor. It's just good depth. Like, good depth. It's a good problem to have. Tyreek Thunderbrick, Josh Hayes, Roman Parody fighting for maybe some practice squad spots or potentially to try to beat out Bryce Hall, Kendall Vildor. Your top 4 are set right there for the Buccaneers. The Falcons, with the Falcons and Panthers and Saints, none of them have great number 2 corners. Like, I think Jamel Dean can be a high-end number 2, maybe even a low-end 1 when he's playing his best football. He's not going to be a turnover machine, but pass deflection and pure coverage, I think Jamel Dean, when he's playing his best football, can be a low-end number 1, high-end number 2. Mike Hughes is like a low-end number 2. Mike Jackson's a low-end number 2. And Isaac Idiom is a very low-end number 2. I just looked at, okay, who do I think? J.C. Horn obviously got the contract, but I think A.J. Terrell's a better corner than him. I like Mike Hughes more like Mike Jackson. You know, Kool-Aid McKinstry, we'll see what he can do next year. But again, he's still kind of you need a couple years to show you can be consistent to land, you know, ahead of guys who have done it at a consistent level, especially one of the highest paid corners in the league. This just came down to, okay, some of the depth. Like, I like Billy Bowman Jr. I like Mike Ford Jr. a little bit more than I like Caleb Evans and Shamar Bartholomew. And certainly, you know, more than Rico Payton and Ugo Amadi. I like Quincy Riley a lot. The Falcons getting Kobe Bryant was huge for them too, I think, in undrafted free agency. Plus, they have Lamar Jackson. They converted him to a cornerback, you know, so they're looking pretty good. No one's going to beat them deep, that's for sure. But no, it kind of comes down to personal preference here, I guess. Like, these are my own rankings. You might think that one of these other teams are better, but at the end of the day, I think the Bucs are the best, and I think, you know, it's by a wide margin. I like their depth, and I like their nickel depth, and I like their starters. I think they're 3 deep, 4 deep, potentially Jacob Parrish with starters. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. You know, because Morrison and Parrish haven't done anything, you know, just like Bowman and Bryant, just like, you know, Quincy Riley, some of these other guys haven't done anything. So they'll have to show that they can do something in the league. But I like the chances, especially with the Buccaneers, and I got them number 1. Christopher Cole says, thoughts on Devin J. Thomas making the 53? Probably not going to happen. I forgot Devin J. Thomas at all on my rankings, so you remembered me before I did. Not going to happen. He's got a strong, you know, struggle to make the practice squad. He's going to have a lights out training camp when the pads come on. The Bucs only have 6 padded practices, not 6 open to the public, just 6 padded practices throughout training camp. That's subject to change, but as of right now, I mean, is that enough? 6 padded practices in 3 games? I don't know if that's enough tackling and enough stuff to put on pads. So those practices are going to be uber important. Those are the days that, you know, you really want to bring it. So he's got to bring it then, and so does everybody else in the bubble. And if he can, you know, then we'll see. Richard says Bucs got the better Walker, David Walker. I love David Walker, but Jalen Walker has some serious talent. He could be a problem. It just depends his size a little bit. Is, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it comes out. KG High for Life says, as long as Hayes and Thunderberg don't make it to the field, Bucs defense will be good. As last year I told you, yeah, probably. In Thunderberg's, in both of their, Hayes is nothing more than really a special teamer and probably shouldn't have been out there, period. And Thunderberg was an undrafted rookie and still needed development. A lot of mental mistakes by those guys, but hey, you know, you move forward, and if they didn't have those mental mistakes and weren't out there, then maybe the Bucs don't go and double dip at corner and get Morrison and Morrison and Parrish, and then you're looking at those two guys and hope they take a jump in year 3 and 2. So, I guess it's good. Sick padded practices league wide. No, I think it's something the Bucs do. They try to do they do 3 on and 1 off. So they'll do 3 practices, and I'm assuming at this point it's going to be shells, the little shells. There's still some contact, but it's not like tackling. And they don't really tackle anyways. I mean, you're not really tackling to the ground, but it's more, it's still kind of physical. It's just not, it's not tackle football with pads, with real pads. They're just spider pads. They're light shoulder pads. And they'll mostly do that. They might throw a walkthrough in there, which is just, shorts and t-shirt. But then they'll have a padded practice in between. So 1, 2, 3. I don't know if it's something that a lot of the whole league is doing. I mean, more team, you can only have so many padded practices, and that's through the NFLPA. So, and the last, what's it called that they did between the NFLPA and the NFL? I can't think of the name of it right now. Where they both come together, not a bargaining, collective bargaining agreement. Yes, collective bargaining agreement. So you can only have so many padded practices, period, and no padded practices during the season. So we'll see. I think they'll be fine. I mean, these boys know what to do. Every time week 1. Teams are rusty, defenses are rusty, tackling's rusty, and it's because of the lack of padded practices. But that's a league-wide rule. Whether it's 6 or 9 or whatever, the Bucs I know they set their practices up as 3 days on, 1 day off. So they're having that day of rest in between. And of course, once the preseason games come, it kind of differentiates a little bit and whatever, but they'll be fine. To our last position group, because I almost forgot. Safety. Let's jump to safety, and I might get some pushback on this from you guys. Let me know. But I have the Saints at 1. I know Tyrann Mathieu's getting up there in age and kind of, he's not the same player he was when he was a Honey Badger, but they brought in Justin Reed in free agency. Thought that was a really, really great move for them. Justin Reed's underrated. And then Jonas Sanker as well in the draft. I think, they're 1, 2, 3. Jordan Howden's played some ball for them too. I think they've got a good group right here, especially if Jonas Sanker can prove he can be, impact player in the NFL. The Falcons, number 2 here. Jesse Bates, Jordan Fuller, Xavier Watts. I just like DeMarco Helms. He's played ball. I like the depth here. There's guys who played safety before, at a high level. Jesse Bates is one of the best safeties in the league. Tyrann Mathieu was one of the best safeties in the league. The Panthers, Trayvon Moring is one of the best safeties in the league. I don't like the rest of it. I like Ransom, but not a huge fan of Damani Richardson. And the Buccaneers, now this could be different, and it could change. Antoine Winfield Jr., I think, is probably right up there with Jesse Bates, Kyle Hamilton. Those 3 are the best in the game. 1, 2, 3, however you want to put it. Those are the 3 best safeties in the game. When Winfield's on, I think because he can do everything well and play everywhere, I think he's probably the best safety. Certainly was the highest paid for a minute. But there's a huge question mark around Tyke Smith. Is Tyke Smith the guy? Can he be the guy? Can he step up into that role? And then after that is just a drop. Christian Izien, good, feisty, tough, never give up, nickel/safety. But is he a true safety? Is he more of a nickel? I don't know. I think the Bucs will probably list him at safety just because of the depth at safety is so bad. And that's what, you kind of put him there, even though he's going to play a little nickel and play safety. Kayvon Merriweather was cut midseason, went to the Lions, didn't even resign to the Bucs practice squad, signed with the Lions practice squad. And then the Bucs signed him to the active roster off their practice squad a week later when Jordan Whitehead got injured. And he played well down the stretch, but you can upgrade that 4th spot for the Bucs easily. Shiloh Sanders, J.J. Roberts, undrafted free agents this year. Rashad Wisdom, Marcus Banks, undrafted free agents from last year. Banks has been taking some snaps with the 2s, so is Rashad Wisdom. in there when Christian Izien, he was recovering through mandatory minicamp from torn pec that he suffered. Shiloh Sanders is the hype name, right? He brings the clicks. He'll have a tough time making the practice squad. He's got to really show out and prove that he can be a force on special teams. He needs to be making or around the tackle every game, every single game. JJ Roberts is a guy who I think could sneak onto this team, over a guy like Kayvon Merriweather. He can play a little corner. He can play safety. He's super fast. He doesn't have a lot of interceptions, but he did have a lot of pass deflections. He's a guy that I had on my list as a best fit for the Bucs if they took a safety in the 7th round. So I think the Bucs could elevate and could potentially be better than the Falcons, maybe even better than the Saints after it's all said and done. But as of right now, if you were saying, all right, pick a safety room, I think I'd probably go with the Saints, the Falcons, and then the Buccaneers. Twan Winfield hasn't been healthy for a full season ever. And Tyke Smith is just an unknown. You think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be good. I'm not really worried about it, but it's still an unknown, and Christian Izien is like break glass emergency option to start at safety for you. So it'll be interesting. Wrapping this up, we'll go to the special teams. We're going a little over here. Special teams and LDBC's most wanted. Is it a reach to McLaughlin is the best kicker in team history? Small sample size, but he's been great. I think he's been tremendous, and I would roll with that. I mean, yeah, over the last it's been 3 years, right? Yeah, over the last 3 years, it's been lights out, and that's why the Buccaneers have the best special teams. Because punters, yes, as Buccaneers fans know last year, punters can certainly cost you games and opportunities in games, but you need a clutch kicker and a guy who can send it, and he can do that. He can, and when he came here, he was known for his distance. He wasn't known for his consistency, and he's flipped that around. He's just been consistent. I think he's missed like 5 kicks, including the playoffs, over his 3 years. It's been great. Young Hoku's been falling off a little bit. Former Buccaneer Bradley Pinion is over there. Blake Grupe is a good kicker. Matthew Wright, we'll see. Special teams, I didn't put kick returners. Rashid Shaheed's for the Saints. I think he'd probably boost that room up maybe a little bit. Falcons, I think, have Jamal Agnew. Buccaneers are going to have Sean Tucker and either Tez Johnson or Trey Palmer. We'll see how that plays out. Panthers, I think they got Troy Horton Jr. and maybe David Moore returning kicks or whatever. But Tom P says we need Whitehead back as a failsafe in case Tyke at song safety doesn't work. I don't know. Whitehead did not look, even when he was healthy, Whitehead did not look like the same guy that you thought you were getting. Everyone was talking about it coming in, always improved in his coverage. Look at his interception numbers, even though most of them were in one game. But you could say he did improve his coverage and everything like that. But like, you brought him in because he's a guy who's going to make people think twice about coming across the middle, and for running backs, thinking twice again, turning it up in between the hashes there, because he's going to bring the stick and lay the lumber. He didn't really do that, So I don't know if he's the best option there, but I do think if they go into training camp, the first place they probably look to bring someone in, if they feel they need to, will probably be at safety, to get another veteran in there, because they have 5, 6, if you count Christian Izien, 6 of their 8 safeties are undrafted guys. You only have Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tyke Smith. Izien, Merriweather, Sanders, Roberts, Banks, and they're all undrafted guys. So we'll see. And rounding out the list here, we will look at the coaches in the NFC South. And I think if you look at the Buccaneers, what they've done, can't argue with success. Results matter. Todd Bowles has led them to 3 straight NFC South titles since he's taken over, and improving records, and probably the best locker room culture, chemistry, and team history, probably around the league right now too. I mean, that's what people talk about when they talk about the Bucs, is the culture, the locker room, the chemistry. that all these guys have, guys taking less to come back. It's a solid staff. Josh Grizzard, we'll see what he does. Todd Bowles is de facto DC, but he does let Larry Foote. He also would let former defensive line coach, who's Casey Rogers, call some plays here and there, but Larry Foote's the guy who'll get that opportunity. And then Thomas McGee, he's a special teams coach. Panthers are number 2, and I know people might say, "Oh, really? What about Raheem Morris? Like he's been around the block before." I just think Dave is going to get this Panthers team turned around sooner than later. Buccaneers, the Todd Bowles, Dave Canales rivalry isn't anything yet, but I think given as soon as maybe this year, maybe next year. Actually, I mean, Dave has played Todd tough the last 2 years. Like the Panthers have been a tough out. They beat him one time too, I think. Like the Panthers have been a tough team for Bowles to go against. Canales knows, just knows the personnel really well. So, we'll see. I think we'll see this turn into a little bit of a rivalry soon, which will be fun. Raheem Morris, I still think he's got a shot to be a good coach, but so much is attached to Michael Penix and his success. That defense, he's a defensive guy. We'll see if he can get him turned around again. A lot of eggs in the edge rusher basket. You're putting a lot of stake there. And Kellen Moore has never done it before. He's got a good staff with Doug Nussmeier and obviously Brandon Staley, former head coach of the Chargers, as his defensive coordinator. But we'll see. Todd Bowles just got a big contract extension, locks him up for the future for a reason. And that's it. That's my NFC South rankings, position by position. Overall, if you forgot, I had the Buccaneers at 1, the Panthers surprisingly at 2, the Falcons overall at 4, and the Saints at Falcons at 3, the Saints at 5. Saints are just going to be an absolute dumpster fire. But that's it. That's who's a better? Richard says, who's a better chance of comeback player of the year, Godwin or Reddick? Ooh, that's going to be fun. I mean, they've got 2 legitimate comeback player of the year candidates. If Reddick goes out and balls out, but Reddick didn't get hurt. He held out. So I think Godwin probably has a better chance. Didn't they make a new award, or didn't they put like, you have to have been hurt? You couldn't just come from like a shitty situation. You had to be hurt or something like that. I don't know. I thought they did. Who knows? But I think Chris Godwin, just because I think those are the rules there. So I'll go with Chris Godwin. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Pirate Parlay here on the Sick Podcast Network. Everyone who's in YouTube, like, subscribe, turn notifications. If you're watching on Twitter, pop over to YouTube X. Sorry, Elon. Just shut down my account or something. If you're watching on X, pop over to the YouTube page, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. That's the way even if you prefer watching on Twitter, get the notification saying we're going live. Then you guys can just, know when to tune in. I want to appreciate I appreciate all of y'all. I want to thank everyone for listening to podcast form. That's going to do it for me here on another edition of the Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.